Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? Today's first encounter. I've been hesitant to share this for a while, since I've been telling myself it could have been a black bear considering the season and general shape of it, but regardless, it freaked me out more than any black bear should have. I have nothing better to do, seeing as I cannot sleep, and I don't need to be anywhere tomorrow. Anyways, I was hiking on a series of trails close to the Minnesota-Wisconsin border in a vast area of natural beauty and rustic comfort. A river basin within several medium or medium-large rivers flowing through it, remnants of a massive glacial river that carved the area out of solid bedrock. These rivers are all connected to the Mississippi, and the waters I fished 5 years ago have now rained on the coast of Louisiana. Very fascinating area, and it has been settled for millennia by different peoples and family groups. Hiking through this area this last spring, at around April 23rd, if my memory is correct, I stopped for a break on a ridge overlooking one of the aforementioned rivers, tore open a package of trail mix, which I downed in record time, probably under 10 seconds, a feat I think is more impressive than the encounter itself. I was getting up to continue my loop when I stopped and noticed movement about 20 yards up the trail and at a slight incline relative to my position. It was stirring, making smooth but hasty movements hardly discernible from the surrounding foliage, which was just beginning to sprout and still thick enough to obscure other people from within 10 yards. I'm talking scrub oak, hazelnut, and some flowering wild plums or cherries, all with green tips breaking out of their twigs. Thick stuff and easy to get lost in without something to orient yourself. Grouse hunting is fun but challenging, as you're gonna get your gun stuck on a branch and lose out on a shot 9 out of 10 times. As I watched the partially obscured furry friend with curiosity, it began to rise and kept going up a solid 8 feet, judging from the height of the brush compared to my height, 6'1", and I felt almost uncomfortable and an odd sensation, and began to jog back the way I had come from. Meanwhile, my discomfort shifted to terror of a primal kind when I stopped for a breath and heard brush breaking behind me, within 15 yards or less and gaining at around 3 yards per second, judging on the frequency of the breaking noises. I forgot completely about needing to breathe and ran harder and faster than I thought I could, with my video game playing fat-ass legs. I reached the trailhead in about 10 minutes compared to the 40 I took initially to reach the point of the encounter, while jogging and walking and pausing frequently to take photos. I got to my car, turned the keys, and drove off. I wrote it off as a bear and didn't think about it until a little while ago while I was lying awake. I recalled the experience and how odd I felt. I am currently agnostic on what it was, So please share in the comments of what you think it could have been, because I am personally unsure. God bless. Today's second encounter. I want to share this encounter because after I read it, I had been thinking about a couple of different encounters that happened, I believe, in the area. One, in fact, would be the gentleman from Delaware that went over to Pennsylvania to go fishing and camping. After reading this, it reminded me a lot of his experience, and I'm wondering if this guy was kind of camped out along the same area as our camper from Delaware. In 2019, I was having a very hard time being around people. I eventually packed my belongings up and went to live my life at the age of 30 by myself in the woods. I was scouting an area that was in Delaware County, which is in the suburbs of Philly, looking for a perfect spot to spend my summer. After my long journey testing different areas out, having bad experiences, such as my tent flooding after heavy rains, I found a huge hill that probably went up a few thousand feet. This certain hill was on a giant rock outcropping with many beautiful stones, such as garnet, embedded in the host rock. I honestly thought I had found the perfect camp, secluded from everyone and everything, surrounded by a large creek. The area was well planted with huge trees of many sorts. So, due to all these factors being perfect for what I was looking for, I set my tent up right on the top of the hill. The tent that I owned was a one-person tent, literally just big enough for me to sleep in, which was all I really needed. I'm pretty much set. All I had left to do was create a barrier with the local tree branches so I could keep out anyone and hide my tent. Upon stringing up a huge wall of branches in the area and putting trip lines around my campsite, I began living my life. Many days had passed that summer before the incident that changed my life forever. So, before I dive into this experience, I want to add that it would be nearly impossible for any dog or anyone to get up this hill. Someone would have to be extremely dedicated into finding this place to get to it. During my adventure living alone in the wilderness, my brother would occasionally meet me a bit away to drop off supplies such as beer, food, and water, etc. On a beautiful summer night after it had rained pretty heavily, I was lying out on the hill right outside of my tent, immersed in an extremely dense fog. The whole area looked as if it was covered in a huge cloud. I was tired from a long walk earlier, so eventually when it hit around 10 p.m. I retired to my tent. I crawled in and lied down with all of my equipment around me. It was extremely cramped in there. I zipped up the door flap and began to relax. I started reading a good book I had when I noticed it was getting pretty late. So I got my flashlight output on my headlamp and just chilled. Periodically, I would text my sister to let her know that I was okay and just conversate about certain things. It hit around 1 a.m. when I just started having a very strange feeling. You know, a feeling of something being wrong. I tried to shrug it off, but it wouldn't go away. I lied there with my headlamp on, fully illuminated. My tent had a tiny opening at the top with mesh, so you can see out of it. Other than that, you really can't see anything on the outside. As I was reading, I suddenly heard something run very loudly toward my tent, right on my left side. It stopped right next to me and began to loudly bark, almost as if a dog was right in your face about to attack. I suddenly shuddered with fear, saying to myself that can't be a dog, there's no possible way anything can get to my tent with my barricade and my trip lines, or at least not without making an extreme struggle and lots of noise. So in complete fear, hearing this beast growl and bark like a maniac, I fumbled to get my phone in a panic and started texting my sister saying, "Listen, there's something outside of my tent, and it sounds very upset. She texted me back saying maybe it's a dog. I'm like, yo, a dog could not get up this hill. It's impossible. The thing stopped harassing me and eventually disappeared for about 10 minutes. I was very frightened after I heard what I heard, so I dialed 911 in my phone and held on to it in case that thing came back. After an hour passes and nothing happened, I began to relax a little. I kicked off my shoes, cracked open a beer, and resumed to read. Let me just say I've been in the woods for 6 months straight before and never had anything like this happen. It was so chilling that I get sick thinking about it. As I'm lying there, time started to pass with no sign of this creature. I was too terrified to even look out of the tent at that point, plus the ground was covered in fog. 3 o'clock rolls around. I firmly held the phone in my right hand just in case. With a sudden moment passing, as I completely paralyzed, I lied there in a state of fear so intense that I thought I was going to die. Something grabbed me. Whatever grabbed me began picking me up and smashing me into the ground. This thing was so strong that I felt like a rag doll. It just kept squeezing me and shaking me as if I was nothing. I looked at my phone in my hand desperately, trying to move my thumb to hit the dial button, but it was impossible. This thing was breathing so loud and making noise so sinister that the impression I got was that this thing crawled right out of hell and wants to take me out of my tent. The cries from it were almost like a loud pulsing sound, similar, I guess, to a giant heartbeat out of control. It beat the living hell out of me. I pictured myself being carried away by this horrible thing into a cave to be experimented on or something really evil. After fighting for probably 7 minutes while being completely paralyzed, it suddenly stopped. The state of fear I was in was so intense at that moment, I was free that my thumb immediately hit 911. I got a female dispatcher on the line. I thought to myself, what do I say? I'm in the middle of nowhere and I was attacked by something. No one's going to take this seriously. I hung the phone up and started texting my sister, saying, listen, here's my location. I was just getting attacked by something. I got no answer. I kept texting, no answer. I cowered in my tent for the next few hours till the sun came out. I was so worn out from the beatdown that I crawled out of my tent in extreme pain. After a complete search of the area for footprints or a sign of something had been there, I came up empty-handed. No lines were tripped, no branches were moved, and my tent was not damaged. Doesn't make much sense because I'm damaged and I could barely walk. Eventually, I moved my campsite, got a bigger tent. I still don't know what that was that attacked me. I don't know what that thing was menacingly barking outside of my tent. I'm literally scared to this day. I now know that there are things so powerful out there that they literally can paralyze you by just coming close to you. Apparently, they can beat the hell out of you through your tent without leaving a sign of having even been there. This all really happened, and I wish that I could tell this experience better through typing, but that's all I got. Was it a Bigfoot? A Dogman? I don't know. But it could have killed me very easily if it wanted to. It could have made me a missing person in a heartbeat. I don't know how or why I survived. I have a feeling that this thing was mad at me for tearing down giant tree branches to fortify my camp, but not exactly sure. That day I tore a lot of branches down, then I was attacked. So to anyone out there, if you're camping, don't harm any type of tree or plant. It might trigger these things to attack. Let me know your thoughts on this. So like I said, it kind of brought me back to the Delaware guy that was camping in PA in 2020. And it reminded me of another encounter that I had heard. Maybe you guys remember, I shared it on the channel. It was about a girl and her cousin, and they were at their grandmother's house. The woods were in the back, and there was a clearing. And This girl had gone out there and seen a dogman. Didn't mess with anything around the area where this dogman was, but ran home quickly. She was scared. Her cousin goes out the next day, and she doesn't realize that she shouldn't be playing with branches or whatever, and this girl breaks a branch off a tree, and all of a sudden this dog man comes out from behind this kind of fallen log, huge fallen tree, and stares at this girl, and she bolts, and the creature not caught up to her, but came close to catching up to her, and she eventually just made it to the house and went back in. But yeah, that girl was attacked because she had touched something in nature, broke some kind of branch off a tree, and then was attacked. So anyway, moving on. Today's third encounter reminds me a lot of the second encounter. I think it's the terrain and not the experience, because both are very creepy and terrifying, but both are different. So let's get into it. This experience happened to me in early July. Well, me and a group of my friends. So my friends and I often go to my buddy's place just outside of Traverse City, Michigan, a good 5 to 10 times throughout the course of a year. We usually stay for 3 to 5 days at a time. There were 6 guys this time, all around 23 to 24 years old. This all happened the first night we got there. We arrived at about 8 p.m. and as soon as we got there, we started to throw back a couple of beers and play some card games and listen to tunes and just BS. The night goes on, and my friend that owns the place and another guy go to sleep at around midnight, and the rest of us 4 decide to have a little bonfire. Bonfires are one of our favorite things to do up there, because at night we can usually see every star in the sky, lots of shooting stars, and what we believe are UFOs, and we just BS and tell stories. One of the guys we were with had only been there one time other than this, and it was in the winter, so he didn't get to experience any outdoor activities at night last time. We made sure he got to see the sky and everything else. So the property is perched on a steep hill with woods all around that very steep hill, and it's on both sides. The woods directly behind the house aren't that thick, and you can see the winding road that leads up the hilly neighborhood. Just behind that road is a main road, and then Lake Michigan, all within which you can see from areas of the back of the house. The main level has a walkout balcony with stairs that lead to the bonfire pit directly to the right of the house. Anyway, the 4 of us grab a beer and go down, and the first thing we notice is that it is a full moon, which is hard to miss because through the trees it looked like a spotlight that was shining on us around the bonfire. We're all talking around the bonfire, looking up at the sky, and we keep bringing up the fact that the moon is so bright. One of my friends says to the guy who has only been here one other time, let's just call him New Guy, "Have you heard of the Dogman? We always joke about the Dogman around the bonfire up here. If you don't know about the Michigan Dogman, well, it's an urban legend and even has a song made about it that we used to play at the camp, and it used to be on the radio a long time ago." So after he said that, I just had this eerie feeling. I kept feeling like we were being watched, and I started hearing stuff behind me. Prior to that, I'm situated so that my back is to the woods with one friend directly across from me, whose back is to the house, and the other 2 are in the middle facing the steep hill with the thinner woods. Their backs are to the stairs leading up to the deck. Anyway, they're all laughing about this dog man, and I was just thinking nah, I don't want to joke about that tonight. So one of my friends says to the other guy, You should play it for him. Play the Dogman song." And I said out loud, "Guys, I don't think that's a good idea. Let's not get him up in here." Kind of joking, but not really. They play the song, and we're all laughing, but I'm still hearing the weird noises behind us. Not your average branches falling or chipmunks running around. Oh yeah, it's nighttime, so they don't run around. It sounded much bigger, a huge animal to me, and I could tell that the new guy heard it as well. It's about 2 a.m. at this point, and they're all on topic of scary stories and paranormal stuff. Well, I'm pretty quiet, and I'm usually the talker of the group. I keep hearing the stuff, and I start to get real nervous. New guy is telling a personal scary story, and I hear something big directly behind me. It sounded like something walking up. So finally I speak up and say, "Guys, I'm hearing stuff," and they kind of look at me, and they ignore me, and they continue. I heard it again, and I didn't say a thing. I kind of just shined my phone flashlight down the hill to my right, and I didn't see anything. A few minutes go by, and it's still story time for them. Well, I'm on edge, trying not to lose my cool. I hear the noises again, and this time they are louder, and I say, "Guys, shut up. I hear something." They get quiet and listen, but nothing. They continue their story. I'm scanning the area from the back right of me to the front to the right back, and then back and forth. Then all of a sudden I see something walking, something huge. I couldn't make out the shape of it exactly, but the head looked almost like a deer with a shorter snout and a wider, rounder head. It was walking straight, heading away from me. Parallel to me and the guy across from me, but like 20 feet to the right on the steep decline. There are bushes right on the top of the hill, right in front of the bonfire, and its head was clear over it. I stood in that same spot the next day, and I could not see over the brush, and I'm 5'10". Whatever it wasn't looking at me. It was just facing the direction it was going. There could have been multiple, but I couldn't tell. I glanced at it, freaked out, grabbed all my stuff while yelling to my friends. I just saw something. I'm going upstairs. I don't care what you guys do, but I'm going to bed." They're telling me to stay, but I was already making my way to the steps. I calmly say, "One last time, you guys can stay. I don't care. I'm going to sleep now. I've had enough." They say whatever and continue talking. As soon as I take my first step up the stairs, I hear the loudest, most monstrous roar from behind us. By far the scariest noise I had ever heard. It sounded like a monster right out of the movie. I heard it too and freaked out. I yelled, "Come on, come on, come on." I glanced behind me and saw them jump up and run towards me. We all run up the stairs as fast as we could. Ran across the deck, and as soon as we passed the first kitchen window, all of the lights in the house went out. I freaked out and turned around towards them as I was yelling, "The power went out, the power went out, what do we do?" I hear one of them say, "Just go, just go." As soon as we passed the second window, the power went back on. We get in the house, run down to the lower level, and try to wake up the friend who owns the place. We're all yelling at him that something's outside and that he needs to get up. He wouldn't budge and just said go to bed. I didn't want to wake up the other guy because we didn't know him that well at the time and didn't want him to think that we're weirdos. Us four gather in one of the rooms. We're all shook. We ask each other just what it was. As I'm yelling, "I told you about me seeing something," I go on to tell them exactly what I saw and that I was not messing around. So we're trying to figure out what we should do next and consider leaving and getting a hotel or just drive the 4 hours home. We all had the feeling as if something was going to kill us. We all had never been so scared. We all love the outdoors. We do big hiking, big camping trips in the Upper Peninsula once a year, and we've never heard anything like this. We're still all talking 100 miles an hour, and we hear the Amazon Echo Alexa, the whole 2 levels above us, full volume, which we didn't even have it on earlier, say, "Sorry, Alexa, cannot connect to Wi-Fi right now. Please try again later." So we all get even more frantic and realize none of our phones have service. We calm down after 5 minutes of silence and listening for noises. We discuss the fact that if we are going to leave, then we have to go upstairs anyway and grab the keys. We man up and slowly walk up there. Everything is dead silent. No wind, no outdoor noises, no nothing. And the majority of the windows are open in the house. There are a lot of windows on that main level, but really big with no blinds or curtains, so if something was outside, it could most likely see us and we could see it. We decided to shut off all the lights so we could see outside and locked all the doors and windows. We go over to the spare bedroom on the left-hand side of the house and all peek out to see if we can see anything below us on the steep hill. We didn't see anything, but we noticed something very strange and unusual for this time of night in the neighborhood of mostly older folk. There was a car on the winding road behind the house below us, facing our direction, with its hazard lights on. We all stare at this for 5 to 10 minutes. We stare at the car for 5 or 10 minutes trying to figure out what it's doing. Did it see what I saw? Did it hear what we heard? Did it hit something? This is kind of a private road and neighborhood, so it was just all very unusual, especially being after 3 in the morning during quarantine, 20 minutes away from town. It eventually turns its hazard lights off and does a U-turn, which is also very unusual. Then flicks its headlights on and goes off on the main road. We all agreed that was weird. Then continued our night looking out the windows, but we didn't see or hear anything. None of us went to sleep that night, and we continued to hear little noises as we were trying to get some shut-eye, but those were probably just out of paranoia. When our other friends woke up, we told them what we went through, and they just laughed and didn't really seem to believe it. We were there 3 more nights after that, and it was completely normal. I've even been back there on 2 separate occasions since then, and both times have had nothing out of the ordinary happen. All I can say is that I've never had an experience like that with that much fear ever. It felt like I was living in a classic horror movie, and I actually thought I was going to die. The following day we Googled and YouTubed all the large animal noises we could think, like moose, buck, black bear, etc., but we couldn't compare it to anything. One of the guys compared it to a car with a V8 engine stepping all the way down on the gas pedal right next to his ear. That's how loud it was. The newer guy didn't remember hearing a noise a couple days later, but remembered everything else. Then me and my other friend just thought it sounded like a straight-up monster. For the rest of the trip, we all came to the conclusion, and it was probably a bear. On our way back home, we did more research and realized the only bear in Michigan are black bear, and they stand about 5 feet in height. Plus, the figure in which I saw looked more gray in color. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Let me know what you think it could have been. Sasquatch, Dogman, extraterrestrial, some kind of everyday woodland creature. I don't know. Alright guys, that experience actually reminded me of another one. A group of guys are camping, having a party at a big house on the hill. Woods all around, lake in front of the house kind of, but you can't see it. And they keep hearing stuff in the woods, right? And then a couple hours go by and they hear this just scream belt out. Just a horrible scream. So they all freak out. They kind of look around. They can't really do too much because the woods are deep. It's late. They call the police later the next day, I think, or that night, and they come to the conclusion that some kind of satanic cult is out in the woods sacrificing somebody. Not too far-fetched. I mean, we do believe in walking North American wood apes and a huge bipedal dog, so anything's possible. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. After all, it is your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and honestly what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Just everyone simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.